Good morning, it's Kristen Tanner. I teach 7th and 8th grade communication arts at MRH Middle School, and today I'm going to be walking you through using the writing traits to create songs, to write songs. So this is kind of a Songwriting 101 class. It will barely scratch the surface of what you can do as a songwriter, but I thought it would be a great place to start. So the first thing that we want to think about when we're writing a song is just basically, where do we get our ideas? What should your song be about? So one of the things that you can do is to look for pictures or photographs for inspiration, or you can think about a personal experience that you have, that you've had, whether it's positive or negative. Lots of those can really generate just different stories that can become really amazing and beautiful songs. For today, we're going to keep it sort of simple and be looking at a photograph. So this particular photograph has a lot of different elements going on, lots of things that you could make observations about. So we're just going to, for a moment, brainstorm a little bit about what we see in this photograph. And so I'm going to go back here to edit mode, and I'm going to just make some notes. So in this photograph, we see a lot of color. Okay, so that's the first thing I noticed. I'm just going to start typing some words on the screen. A lot of the color has a depth to it. That is an interesting word that you could, sometimes words can take on different varieties, different forms. So the word depth could become deep. I see circles here in this image. I see the sun. I see the Ferris wheel. So there is that in the background. I also am going to jot down the fact that it seems like something is beginning, like the sun is, I don't know, I'm not really sure. It could be beginning, coming up, or it could be setting. So I'm just going to put a question mark there. Okay. Another thing that I am envisioning from this photograph that's kind of giving me some ideas is the idea of up versus down, because like I said, I'm not really sure if the sun is going up or going down, but I'm going to write that down anyway. Another thing that I could imagine, I'm just wondering what it might be like, is this is an outside photograph taken in a beautiful setting, and so I'm wondering about like the air, just what does it smell like, what does it feel like outside, being outside. And then lastly, I'd like to kind of investigate sound, like what are some sounds that are going on. So this is just just a brief like brainstorm session. It doesn't mean that these are the only words that come to mind whenever I look at this photograph, but I just wanted to kind of jot down some initial thoughts, because when you're writing, some of your most amazing ideas can come from your simplest concepts or simplest even words, just basic words. So here's my brainstorm session based on this photograph. There's so much more that we could do with this, so I want you to take your time, and you might need to pause this video so you can write down your own thoughts about this photograph. Again, this is just an exercise. I'm hoping that you'll be able to transfer this to your own interests, whether it's an experience or another photograph that really speaks to you. Okay. So organization. How should this song fit together? How should it be pieced together like a puzzle? Basically, songs are nothing more than poems set to music. And so when we're writing, it's always helpful to have a structure in mind. And so these are the different puzzle pieces, so to speak, of a song. The verse is a group of sentences or words that tell a story through the songwriting process. It kind of supports the theme with details. These are kind of like, if you want to look at it as a metaphor of a stool. I like to use this a lot when we write paragraphs in my English class, but the legs are the verse. And then the chorus contains the theme or the main idea. It's repeated through the song at different moments. It's kind of like the tabletop. And then the bridge, it adds new meaning, depth, or just a twist that carries you from the last verse to the last chorus. That's kind of like the centerpiece that you might set on top of the table, like a vase of flowers. So it's kind of the icing on the cake, if you will. So these are some just different song formats. These are not the only song formats, but they're patterns that kind of help us to create an organized song or an organized poem that becomes a song. So the first one is verse, chorus, which repeats verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. It's very standard and basic, but there's a lot of things. If you hear current songs these days that are popular, there's a lot of songs that are just basically very simple and based on this format. Then you have verse and bridge. So that would be verse, verse, bridge, verse. Sometimes a new idea is thrown in as a bridge. And then verse, chorus, bridge, which could be verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. So it's sort of like you're only using the bridge if you just happen to have this great idea that screams out at you as being necessary. So there's many different examples of doing this with the verse, chorus, and then throwing in the bridge. One of those is the song Happy, which we're going to look at in a second. And then the other one that's listed here is just verse, verse, verse. So there's one or more repetitions in a row. So there's not a lot of like variation in terms of, having a chorus, but it's a very lesser common type of format for a song. So, okay. So next we're going to take a look at this song Happy by Pharrell Williams. And so we're just going to kind of listen to it. And as we go through, I want you to think about the pattern that you're hearing of the structure, the format of the song. Okay? So let me open that up here for a second, and we'll take a listen. It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. Okay, so here we have the verse. Hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. And then we go into the chorus. You feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy, clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. And then back to another verse, a different verse. Talking this and that. Give me all you got, don't hold me back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. And back to the original idea of the chorus, the main idea. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy, clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Now we have a new idea, the bridge. Bring it down, can't nothing. Bring it down, the love is too high. Bring it down, can't nothing. Bring it down, I said. Bring it down. You'll notice there's a lot of repetition in this. It's also sort of building. And you go back to the chorus. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy, clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like a room out of room. Because I'm happy. Okay, and so we have what's just basically repetition for the remainder of that song. So that should give you a general idea of format, a basic format that we can follow as we create our own song. Here is another thought as we are brainstorming. What kind of voice would we write a song in? Would we use first or third person? What kind of tone would we use? So if we're using first person, it will be a little bit more of a I, you type of situation. And so happy is written in first person, and it also gives the audience an up close and personal feel. Okay. Word choice. What kinds of words do you think are great to include in songs? Well, descriptive. The more descriptive, the better. A lot of times, often as you hear songs that you really enjoy, you'll also notice that they do rhyme. There's a lot of rhyming words that help the listener experience the song better. So we're going to take a quick look at some very familiar rhymes that you might have heard before. This is Dr. Seuss' Do You Like Green Eggs and Ham? And so you'll notice that there is a pattern or structure. So you have, do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, same I am. So those rhyme, okay? And then we're going to go ahead with the same thing, this repetition. I do not like green eggs and ham. Would you like them here or there? Okay, so the there is a different rhyme scheme, and so it's going to be letter B. So then I would not like them here or there. That's also repeated use of the word there. I would not like them anywhere. Okay, so that rhymes with the previous line there. I do so like green eggs and ham, which rhymes with the original A lines that we saw in the beginning. Okay, so this is just an example of a rhyme scheme. I want to kind of bring back a few of the words that we kind of wrote down from our brainstorm from looking at that photograph. And again, that photograph is just an example. It's just an example, but we're going to use that to kind of guide our thoughts. So I have just put down, I've written down these words as being sort of ending rhyming words to work with. And so we have a scheme of A, B, A, and then we have a C thrown in there, and then an A and an A. So here we have, I'm going to get out of this mode for a second to do some more brainstorming with you. Here we have just the word down. And so I know that we talked about the sun going down, so I'm just going to kind of type that in just for now, just to kind of do some brainstorming. The word worry I threw in because I felt like there weren't very many worries in that picture. So maybe there's no need to worry. Maybe it's just like a carefree day. We'll write that in. The word sound was mentioned, and we talked about sort of wondering what kind of sounds might be going on. And so I'm going to leave that because I'm just trying to kind of brainstorm right now. But I also mentioned the word air, and so that might be, I don't know, whenever you think about riding a Ferris wheel, sometimes you have like your hands in the air. It's also a phrase that Pharrell used in his song, so I'm just going to write that in because it seems like a fun phrase that might work out for us. When you look at that picture, it's kind of like a 360 view, so I'm going to write the phrase looking all around. And then thinking again about the sun going down, we had that phrase or the relationship between up and down. So I'm wondering how in the Ferris wheel, again, I'm just brainstorming, but the Ferris wheel is going up and then the sun is going down. So that might be sort of like an interesting comparison or contrast. So again, I'm just brainstorming. I'm just kind of leaving, not everything is filled in, sort of got some holes in it still, but that's okay. So going back to the verse, which we probably should have started with to begin with, but that's okay. That's our main idea, but sometimes it's good to start with the main idea. The word deep was also one of those words that we brainstormed. And so I'm thinking the colors were really deep, the oranges and the golden tones. So I'm just going to write those in as well. And then I think that remember thinking that the sky, something about the sky was getting ready to sleep, or maybe it was waking up. I wasn't sure. It's hard to tell from the picture. So we're going to write down something about the sky being asleep. And then I'm not sure. Maybe the again was a word that I thought about how it's like the process is over and over again. How this happens, how the sun goes up and the sun goes down, and it's kind of like a cycle. And so maybe there's something to that we could write about. Okay, begin. This might be something about the day beginning. So I'm just going to write in a little phrase here. And then, yeah, maybe the same kind of idea of a new day begins. Dawn might be a nice synonym. A new day dawns, and so shall I. That's kind of a phrase that comes to mind. So again, we have some holes to work through, but we have a draft going. So that's kind of cool because we can work with this as we move forward. So these are our rhyming words that sort of end with that. So golden, colors golden deep, sky is asleep, process over and over again, day will begin, a new day dawns, and so shall I. So let's go to the chorus. The sun goes down, no need to worry. Something about sound, we'll fill that in later. Hands in the air, looking all around. Ferris wheel goes up, the sun goes down. So I'm noticing that theme of the up and down. I want to think about that as I continue to write. I also want to think about sentence fluency and how can we help our words flow or connect well with each other. I'm going to kind of fast forward a bit, and I've kind of behind the scenes, I've kind of worked a little bit more through that picture and the images with the tones of the gold and the yellow and the orange. So here I have a phrase that I wrote that I kind of like: orange and yellow, golden deep, towering above the sky asleep. Okay, so there's a rhyme pattern there. I see its rays begin to sleep, but there's still some kind of, I don't know, unnecessary repetition that I don't think really works very well. So I'm going to take out this line in the middle. Whoops, sorry about that. Towering above the sky asleep. I don't think I need that. So I'm just going to use orange and yellow, golden deep. I see its rays begin to sleep. So I'm kind of going to be talking about the sun here. I'm going to focus on the sun. That flows a lot better. Next, I need to think about conventions, making sure I use correct spelling, punctuation, and grammar so that my song is really easy to understand, okay? I know these are things that can appear boring when you're writing and the whole writing process, but they're super important because the clearer you can communicate, the more attractive and the more catchy that your song will become. So even though this whole process would take me a lot longer than this video clip, I'm just going to read through what I have come up with as a result of thinking through that photograph from the very beginning. And again, I'll revisit that picture in just a moment, but let me read this to you. So, orange and yellow, golden deep, towering above the sky asleep. I see its rays begin to sleep. But I know the sun will shine again. Rise up and it will begin. A new day dawns and so shall I. I'm climbing up as the sun goes down. No need to worry, the track is sound. Both hands up in the air, I'm looking all around. I'm climbing up as the sun goes down. So you have a good song when each section is filled in with words that rhyme in the right spots, or if you aren't rhyming, they at least flow well. And the words basically say what you want them to. Each section has a melody. You can sing through it together. But one of the most important things you need to ask yourself is, are there any spots that give you trouble? Look for words that are difficult to sing. Most likely the trouble is in the way that they scan, so you might want to simplify or just kind of provide a different way of saying the same thing. Maybe it's a synonym, okay? So going back to this photograph here, thinking about, the whole idea of climbing up on the Ferris wheel as the sun goes down, it's a nice contrast. And so it would take another session to talk more about them putting the melody with the lyrics, but that's something that you can even just start to experiment with. And so I would probably at this point get my guitar out and I would just start to strum some chords, or if you play piano, or even if you don't have an instrument at home, focus in on those lyrics that you wrote and just kind of hum to see what would work well. Orange and yellow, golden deep, towering above the sky asleep. So think about like how those words flow together and how they sing, how they move from word to word, and see what you can put with that, whether it's an accompaniment, whether it's piano, guitar, however you want to look at it, whatever instrumentation you might want to use. But this is just the beginning of what could become a really cool song. And it was all based on just one photograph. So take a look around, even borrow someone's phone, your parent or your guardian's phone, and take a walk and take some photographs that might inspire you to write a song. And remember, it can start as a poem and then segue itself into a really cool song. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me for the songwriting session, and I hope to hear some of the great songs that you've come up with and written during the summer. Take care. Bye.